Well, how are y'all doing? I hope well, and I hope you're also enjoying our great weather and, of course, enjoying the many different kinds of sharings and experiences that this retreat is offering you. When asked, um, wanted to share with you some things that I've developed here, some ideas over the last bunch of years. But first of all, I'll let you know that my name is John Solano, and I've been a professional counselor for over 30 years or so. Over the last just over a decade, I've been a family counselor uh, working with a local nonprofit. And through my work, um, I encountered some wonderful people, Victoria and Nicole Taylor, and so many others now as part of the Family Smart um, family, I guess you could say, organization. And I've always really enjoyed those collaborative opportunities that we've had, and um, the opportunity came up for me to be part of the Family Smart Practice facilitator team. And so I also do that. Um, so, you know, in addition to all the counseling and stuff that I've been doing over the years, and the many hats that I've worn, one of the things that I've most enjoyed is being a sports coach. So I did that for many years. I played sports, and I've got a son that I've raised who's 27 now. And like many parents, I participated in lots of different clinics and things, if you will, professional development in the area of sports coaching, so I could coach um, at higher levels of competition. And so I brought these two worlds together. So my counseling background with my sports coaching background. And what I'm sharing with you right now is what I share with everybody when I explain who I am and what I might be able to offer. And so one of the things that I've come to appreciate in kind of seeing through things through a kind of a sports lens, sports coaching lens, and working with families and individuals and areas of their life where they might feel challenged, um, is that as a coach, one of the things that I do is that um, I'm constantly inviting people into a different position, constantly inviting people into a different position. Positioning is really important, isn't it? In sports, if you played sports, if you're on a team, everybody plays a particular position and you learn how to play that position well. Being in the right position at the right time is really important. So, positioning is really important. Um, and so, when I'm working with a family or an individual, I also believe that there's a scoreboard that a person has, again, as an individual or as a family. When I go into a family living room, almost every family has a big screen TV, and I just kind of point to that as if it were a scoreboard, and I ask them, well, how's it going? Are you winning or are you losing? Well, of course, I wouldn't be in their living room, or it's likely I wouldn't be having an individual session with somebody if they felt as if they were winning. So I use that analogy, if you will, to begin the conversation about how the scoreboard never lies. The scoreboard, really, of life never lies. That's all about our results in life. And so people are not satisfied. They're not happy with the results they're getting. And so as a coach, I come in and say, well, I'm going to be offering you some different positions. One of the things that I know right away, for instance, is that it's kind of the way your body might be positioned or working together is somehow off. So just stand over there for a second and let me kind of see how you move, how you do your thing, right? And as a coach, I would be looking for places or things that are not aligned properly. I would be looking for things that the person is doing that is not a reflection, if you will, of the fundamentals. that they were given when they were just starting the game. So I would invite people to make some shifts in position. And I warn people that, this might feel a little weird, a little awkward. But I also tell them that what I'm inviting you back to, or what I'm inviting you to do, the shift in position that I'm inviting you to, is actually a shift back to something that you learned a long time ago. It's called the fundamentals. So in any sport, if you will, there when you first start it, there's a certain set of fundamental ideas, fundamental attitudes, skills, strategies, whatever you want to call it, that you receive. And basically, you're told that if you practice those consistently, you'll get better and better, you'll have more fun, and your scoreboard will look pretty good. You'll win more games than you lose. So, if you will, I've used that in my counseling to say, like if things aren't going well in a person's life. Now remember, what this is just a position that I'm offering you today, and this exercise that we're going to do is an exercise that kind of helps people realign, with their position, with a good position. But one of the things that I know is that if the scoreboard isn't looking that well, something's off, if you will, in where they position themselves. Something very fundamental is off, if you will. There needs to be a reconnection to the fundamentals. And as I thought about that more and more, I realized that there are fundamentals to everything, right? There are fundamentals to physical health. There are fundamentals to how to keep a job. There are fundamentals to marriage. There are fundamentals to mental health. There are fundamentals all over the place. And if we stick to those, we can build on those, get better and better, and we usually are happier and healthier if we stick to those fundamentals. So when I see a scoreboard, if you will, or an individual or a family or what have you, and they're not experiencing the results that they would like to get, and that usually would look like a sense of frustration, futility, exhaustion, anger. It could look like a lot of different things in their lives that are causing, I guess you could say, a significant amount of distress. So it's kind of like where there's smoke, there's fire. When you see those kind of symptoms, you can guess that something fundamental needs to occur. There needs to be a reconnection with something very fundamental. So I began to think, well, what is the most fundamental aspect that we deal with, I guess you could say, or we could recognize in who we are as human beings? And so I developed this exercise based upon, I guess you could say, a couple of assumptions. Now, hopefully by now you've got in your hands uh, some instructions, some documents that contain instructions, and also the exercise itself. Okay, um, so this is called the Code of Honor exercise. So this Code of Honor exercise, as you can see, if you have the document, it says the Code of Honor exercise rests and strives to illuminate. So rests on and strives to illuminate an idea that you may already know or have a sense of, or maybe yet to even gain some familiarity with. And that idea is this, that every human being has within them a cherished set, a configuration of values, beliefs, convictions that are held deeply within. All right. So one of the first things that I want to do, it's almost like an inverted Maslow's hierarchy, right? So what's at the top of the hierarchy? Self-actualization, right? In other words, get to know yourself. And so I thought, well, what would it be like to just invert that? Start there instead of finally get there, years and years down the road. Why don't we start there? In other words, the question is, who are you really? What are you really made of? What is it that you really stand for? What are your deeply held convictions? And this is an exercise that I use both with individuals and with entire families. Because oftentimes, like I said, when there's distress or trouble going on in with an individual or a family, it's almost like there's been a disconnect from something deep. if you will, almost like an anchor. There's no anchoring to the individual, and so things are going sideways, right? And so one of the first things I want to give people an opportunity to do when I'm working with them is to re-anchor themselves into something deep. It's, the old idea that you never build a house on sand, right? You got to find somewhere rock solid to stand on. You got to find something rock solid within oneself, within yourself, and as an anchor, and then begin to, uh, you know, look at life and reconfigure life according to what you're standing on, if you will. So we talk a lot about the importance of where one is standing, or where one is grounded, or the ground that one stands on. Again, the position. It's kind of like from where one stands, one gets a perspective of the world, and then acts accordingly. And so this is what the Code of Honor exercise is about. And it's a fairly quick exercise. All right, that's what I love about it. I tried to make it as simple as possible to give people a very kind of beginning experience of, or that will help them illuminate their core values and convictions and what they stand for at the end of the day. All right, so as you look at this exercise, yes, it'll say right at the top, pick 5 core virtues, or whatever you want to call them, beliefs, values, or convictions. Pick 5 from the bolded words. Just circle them. And then you'll see below, you'll see 5 separate lines. And if you could circle them, and you can either circle them all first and then write them on the lines below, or circle one and then write it on the line below. However you choose to do that is fine. There's no right or wrong about this exercise. And it is a very beginning part of the beginning. So yeah, just play with it and trust your intuition around what you'd like to circle, because you can always change it, or just go with it and see what you end up with. All right. So once you circle those 5 values or virtues or convictions, you put those in the lines below. This becomes a very, I guess you could say, elementary beginning of a clarification of one's code of honor. In other words, what you stand for, what you're all about at the end of the day. This is what I say to people. I want to know who you are and what you're all about. At the end of the day, you would tell me that you're all about this. What you stand for is this. Okay? So as you go down this sheet, you'll see it says completing the Code of Honor worksheet. What I've just described to you is that worksheet. Okay? Now, I have put down there a little box. Now this is kind of an addition. So once you see that part that says, secondly, once you circle your 5 virtues, then write them on the lines below, 1 virtue on each line. Okay, at that point you are done with the Code of Honor exercise. However, I've included very briefly here another piece that's super important, and I wasn't able to add more documents because I wanted to keep this focused on the Code of Honor as much as possible, and your Sacred Vow, which is coming next, which is even more awesome. I'd love to do some sort of bigger presentation if you're interested in the psychology and transpersonal psychology and mythology that this is all grounded in. But this next box is meant to help people, what I want to call, kind of get a clearer picture of their true identity. What do I mean by that? Well, we all through life, experience different kinds of challenges and trials. Some of those challenges and trials can have an impact on us, and in terms of how we see ourselves, our self-concept. It's almost like an identity, something that we identify with, a narrative, various labels, a family that we're a part of, what have you, and experiences that we've had. Some of those identities, if you will, or some of that identity is not very complimentary or very empowering. So I like to think from a transpersonal perspective that we actually have 2 identities. there's one identity that's that we kind of inherit, or that is something that we are offered or cling to through our life experiences. And then there's another identity that we have beyond that. So this is what this little exercise is. This is what I call your true identity, or one could say an inscribed identity versus a prescribed identity. So here's the little exercise. Here's a little opportunity. Now that you can see your virtues more clearly, you have a clearer understanding of what you stand for. Now you can also introduce yourself according to your restored identity. So it'd be very simple. You see the phrase, my name is, so for instance, my name is John, and I stand for, and I might say, leadership, accountability, integrity, passion, and honesty. Something like that. I would take my 5 virtues and plug them in to below. So now you introduce yourself, you have an opportunity to introduce yourself as your stands, as what you stand for. Okay? All right, so let's move further. Okay? Now this is what's called your sacred vow. All right? So let's just go through this a little bit. Might sound like a weird thing, your sacred vow. But you know what? We make promises and vows and oaths and pledges all the time. But there's certainly a difference between a promise and a vow. Somebody might say to themselves, man, you know, I promise you that if you do that again, I'm going to do this, right? So that we make these little promises like this all the time. Promises are in our language. But when we think about vows, sacred vows, vows always come with very serious things. We take vows usually when we consider the experience that we're in sacred, like a wedding vow, right? Or we take a vow to, some kind of monastic or what have you, religious order or what have you. We take vows when things are pretty serious or pretty very sacred to us. So here's the exercise, all right? In the previous exercise, you were better able to identify your core virtues, which you then came to know is your code of honor. Now, what I want you to do here then is think of your identified virtues as if they're gifts to give. So now you've come to see that you've got these great, awesome virtues and values within you. But the question is what good would it do to keep all these gifts to yourself? None, right? I mean, if you just kept all your greatness, all your gifts, all your talents, all your abilities and potentials to yourself, that wouldn't be very fulfilling. All right. So the only thing that really makes any sense is that you're on a mission. And what is that mission? Well, that mission is to gift to the world your virtues, right? To embody those virtues and share those with the world as gifts. You want to share your virtues, your values, your beliefs. You want to do that through embodying them and engaging the world, right? Well, this mission is fueled through the sacred vow. All right. So in this box here, I've said the thing you may have noticed is that these exercises are not meant to create your code of honor or sacred vow, but rather to uncover and clarify what already exists within you. All right. Already exists within you. All right. So this is what this is about. So here you go. So in order to begin unveiling your sacred vow, take the virtues from your code of honor and place them, one virtue in each blank, in any order you wish. If you'd like to use an erasable pen, this will allow you to move the virtues around until the order feels right, or just use a regular pen and scratch it out, pencil, whatever. Don't take it too seriously. Again, sometimes the best results are to just trust your instinct in terms of the order of how you want to put those in. And remember, there's no right or wrong to this. All right. So once you've placed your virtues in the blanks, just read it to yourself and then kind of read it out loud. Feel free to reorder the virtues. And remember, there's no right or wrong, or no perfection that's we're trying to read. So this is all just a beginning. But hopefully, what you'll experience with this is a feeling, kind of an inner feeling of, wow, that says it all. Like that nails it. Like that says who I am. So again, you go back to your code of honor and you can look at that and say, is this what I stand for? And you introduce yourself as your stands. My name is, and I stand for boom, 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 boom. And you go, whoa, that feels pretty right. That feels pretty powerful when I say that. And then you've got your sacred vow, right? That that you're going to work on, that you're going to clarify. Um, so if you want to, one of the things you can do is recite it to another person, a friend, a family member. Um, when it really works, if you will, what you can tell is both you on the inside of yourself, you feel inspired, you feel like it's somehow picking you up. Um, it's causing you to feel more alive, and then the people who hear it, they feel it in their body. It just hits them. They're going, wow, like this is uh, you know this is inspiring. They'll say this really impacts me to hear this. And so another thing you might want to think about is, can you see how this might be helpful in working with some families or individuals um, that you're connected with? Certainly, if you're one of the facilitators in the Family Smart practice, can you see how this could very fundamentally support and maybe even empower some of the concepts that we're using? Um, One of the things that's always stuck out for me is, the soft things make the hard work possible. The soft things make the hard work possible. So this work is very fundamental, and it's not about doing, it's about who we're being. Who we're being really says everything, or informs everything about how we conduct ourselves. And it may seem like a soft skill or something soft and intangible, but it's those soft things, right, that make the hard work possible, is one of the sayings in the facilitator manual in the Family Smart practice. So yes, you can think about how this might support, enhance, empower some of that work, or how this might be helpful to some of the people that you might be working with. Um, it's helpful for me as somebody who's a helper, if you will, a support person, to help me remain deeply anchored, which helps me remain clear and well regulated, and help deal with some of the stress and anxieties that I experience from day to day as a person with lived experience. So um, you can think of that, give that some thought. Um, so I'm going to leave it there now. I'm hoping that when we actually connect online for the retreat, that some of you may be willing to share with us your 5 stands that you've selected, and and maybe your sacred vow, and any other insights that you might have had from using this exercise. Again, I've tried to keep it short and sweet, and there's so much more conversation that can be generated from this in our conversations with the people that we support. You're more than welcome to use this exercise with the families and individuals that you work with, if you'd like to do that. Um, and again, there's also some add-on pieces to this that I would be happy to share. If you're interested, just let me know, and I'll get those pieces to you, and we can have a Zoom meeting or whatever, and I can explain those to you. All right. So again, enjoy the beautiful weather. that we're having, and I hope that you're maybe taking some vacations and things like that when, before the retreat. And thank you to everybody on the Family Smart team for making the retreat happen and for giving me this opportunity to share. So stay well, everybody, and